Peace and love always. Hello, everybody. I'm here on the North Shore of Long Island, New York, at a beach, a beautiful beach. We just are kind of still watching the sun as it sets over the ocean. It looks absolutely amazing. I'm here with Karina, who is a mentor and coach for highly sensitive people, and we're gonna just have an awesome time and a good conversation, and I'm gonna film it so you guys can listen and learn a few things from Karina. Yay! So Karina, can you tell us what's a highly sensitive person?
Of course. So I want to preface this by saying that when I first learned about this term, highly sensitive person, I didn't want to have anything to do with it. I had a lot of what I know now is shame. I didn't really know what shame was, but I had a lot of shame around what it meant to be sensitive, because growing up, my dad always called me sensitive, and I felt like I didn't really, I didn't see that that was something positive. So why would I want to why would I want to call myself something that wasn't positive, right? So over the years, actually 5 years later, I met my business coach, my business mentor, and she's the one that really told me about what a highly sensitive person really is, and actually that it's an awesome strength to have. So highly sensitive people, there's 20% of the population are highly sensitive.
That's a lot.
Yeah. So, across species, across cultures, every country, you're not going to go anywhere and you're not going to find a highly sensitive person. And that's what I think is beautiful, because I think like this outlier of society, like I feel like highly sensitive people, it's like you can't look at them and know that you're sensitive. You can't judge them from their outside. You have to speak with them, you have to feel with them, you have to be with them.
Yeah, like they don't go around with like a sign saying you're like, hey, I'm sensitive.
Yeah, you cannot point someone out. And even more so because highly sensitive people, it's not typically someone who's shy or cries a lot or is overreactive. Those are not signs of highly sensitive people. But really the things to look out for as a highly sensitive person are people who think really deeply. So they think on levels that you maybe wouldn't think about. Like I remember my friends used to call them Karina-isms, because I used to come up with these crazy ideas and thoughts. You're like, Karina, where did that come from? I'm like, I don't know. But I just that was the first awareness I had of like, wow, I clearly think a lot differently than other people. And so, highly sensitive people tend to be empathetic, really highly empathetic. So we feel what other people feel, which is this something that you can relate to?
Yes.
Yeah?
Sure.
Tell me about you.
I get if I'm around somebody who's feeling really emotional, and especially if they're crying, I didn't realize this before. Maybe I blocked it away for years, but I want to say when I started waking up to my spirituality and to myself, that's when I started noticing it. I would start crying too, and I have no idea, I'm not a part of their situation of why they're crying, but just being in the vicinity of them crying makes me want to cry. I just feel really in touch with their emotions. So that's when I started figuring out okay, I'm a little probably not like most people, because other people just stand there and they're like, okay,
yeah,
you're crying. But to me it's oh my gosh, I'm sorry, I feel for you,
yeah.
You feel like you're them, I guess, in a way.
Yeah, but it's not always you have to experience what they're experiencing. You can just simply put yourself in their shoes and imagine what it feels like. And that's the thing about highly sensitive people, is that we have such vast imaginations, which is really cool, because with such a insanely active imagination, you can think about new ideas, you can be innovative, you can see the world in a new way, you could see a world that doesn't yet exist. So we tend to be the visionaries of society.
And you help create them.
Exactly. Yes, we have to kind of carry that light so that other people can see where to turn. Everyone wants to turn towards the light. But also having a vast imagination means that you might think of really negative scenarios as well.
Yeah.
So, I know me, I could think of every worst case scenario and how something could go wrong. So really, it's your imagination is not something bad. It's really how you use it. It's a tool. And you can either use it to imagine really great things and, what you want to create and, opportunities and possibilities, or you can imagine things like fear and just make you anxious all the time and get really stuck in that fear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because because you're sensitive to those kind of emotions. To fear. Fear is a strong emotion. Like, it's a negative emotion, but it's really, really strong. And when you feel that fear, it's sometimes difficult to like surpass it. But I feel like you can. It's just getting that strength and building it back up so that you can kind of go through it.
Yeah, and I love it that you're bringing that up. I was just reading a book about, it's called Power versus Force by David Hawkins.
Is that David Hawkins?
No, I can't remember his name, but I know the Hawkins guy. Yes, yeah. I know what you're talking about. But this is David Hawkins, and he talks about this like emotional scale, and actually fear. So it's really hard to go from fear to joy, right? Mm-hmm. So he has an emotional scale with different vibrational frequencies. And so instead of going from fear to joy, you just go to the next step, and then the next step, and the next step. So actually, it's interesting. The next step of fear is desire. And then the next step of that is anger.
So that's the desire to want to change.
Exactly. And that's why, because when I saw that, I know. Like when I saw that, I was like, desire is like in a lower vibration. I was like, well, I guess so, because when you're in a really crappy state, that is the time where you can really clearly see what you don't want in your life.
Yeah.
And that is the time to say, I want this instead. Right? But then you say you want this, and then you get angry because you're not there yet, or you get impatient or frustrated. You know, that frustration is actually the next one above anger. And then it keeps going and going until you're in, brave, courageousness or willingness. Willingness is a big one, is like willingness to take steps, right?
Yeah.
To not be attached to the outcome and just continuing to take what steps towards what it is that you want to create. So yeah, I would say being sensitive, it just gives you an alternative perspective, right? I feel like the sensitive person in the room is usually going to say the thing that you wouldn't really think about, or they'd really try to include everyone in the group. They tend to be able to spot the people who are being left out or are getting attacked. So kind of like take the side of the underdog and really want to be there with them and bring them up.
Yeah, it's true. What you were saying before was reminding me of something.
Okay. Yeah. So another piece of being highly sensitive. So there's deep emotions, deep thinking. A lot of the work that I do is teaching highly sensitive people how being sensitive is a strength and how to use that as a strength instead of seeing it as a shortcome or a weakness. And actually, recently I was talking to a friend, and I asked them like, what do you like? I just still sometimes I check in with like the masses, and I'm like, when you hear the word sensitive, like what do you think of? And they said, oh, like I guess when I'm being sensitive, I'm being more reactive. And I was like, oh, that's interesting, right? And that's not a trait of the highly sensitive person. Is more reactive. I would just say that because we have more dynamic, if you will, nervous systems, we pick up on things easier. And you're only reactive if you're unconscious and you're unaware of how you're feeling, right? It's like you want to be conscious, you pick up on something, you don't just react. You let it digest, and then you consciously choose how you what you want to say, you want to do. So being reactive is not necessarily being highly sensitive. Whether you're crying or you're getting angry, like, oh, you're so sensitive, it's like not like that. It's really, maybe you're overstimulated because you're taking in so much. But that's why things like mindfulness is so important. Meditation, yoga, so important, because we need to learn how to focus our attention so that we're not taking in everything. We just focus on one thing that we're taking in so that it doesn't overwhelm us. That's a big piece.
I was just thinking about how people like get discouraged easily. I feel like especially sensitive people, right, get more discouraged when they're not where they want to be.
Okay, I would say everyone gets discouraged, right?
Yeah.
But because they're highly sensitive, it's like they might feel that discouragement even deeper.
And hold on to it for longer, possibly.
Possibly, yeah, definitely. But it doesn't mean that they're not capable, right? Just because they feel it deeper does not mean that they're not capable. And I would actually say there's been research that showed that being highly sensitive, it's like really, how you use this trait that you're born with. It's a biological trait. It really depends on how you were brought up. So if you were brought up in a really chaotic, maybe abusive, household where, you're put down and you were especially shamed for your emotions and feeling things, you're going to probably hide things. more just blocked
Closed?
off. Yeah. And so when you're highly sensitive in a household like that, it impacts you even harder than if you were not a highly sensitive person in that family. But if you are a highly sensitive person in a family that was really encouraging and supportive and loving, and it's like, imagine like that, like on a dose of like 100.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, sometimes I think about people who might be highly sensitive in history, like, I even heard like Bob Marley recently. I actually learned about him and his family, and his family was really loving and really encouraging. It was like so supportive of him starting his music. But I didn't know that. Like, sometimes you assume that like people just kind of go and do their own thing, but like he came from a great family, and like I really think he's someone who is highly sensitive. Yeah, definitely.
Who else? I was just thinking about Jimi Hendrix for some reason.
Jimi Hendrix. I don't know too much about Jimi Hendrix, but it's possible.
I watched a documentary. I mean, I don't know how. Not a documentary, I'm sorry. I guess it was like a reenactment of his story. Andre 3000 was in it. I forget what it's called. It was on Netflix. I don't know if it still is, but the way they portrayed him, it was like he was kind of sensitive, but maybe he pushed it away and did a lot of drugs and drinking and stuff like that.
Yes.